Let's talk about the KCNA and the KCSA certifications. So the KCNA being the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Associate, and the KCSA being the Kubernetes and Cloud Native Security Associate. So in this last video in the series, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to kind of group both of these certifications together. I actually took both of these certifications kind of back to back. I took the KCNA on one day, and then I took the KCSA on the second day. And overall, I think they're really great beginner certifications to get if you are just trying to get into Kubernetes, if you're just starting to get into cloud native technologies and containers. They can be a really great start. Now, I will be completely honest with you. I did not really prepare for these exams at all. So if you followed my Kubestronaut, and that's not a flex, by the way, I'm just saying, like, if you followed my Kubestronaut journey, I took my CKA and then my CKAD and then my CKS. And after having passed all three of those exams, then I took the KCNA and the KCSA to complete the requirements for the Kubestronaut program. So I don't have a ton of exam prep. These are multiple choice exams, and you can find all the information here on the website. As far as what they expect you to know, Kubernetes core concepts, administration, scheduling, containerization. You will most likely be asked questions about some basic kubectl commands. Do you know how to create a deployment? Do you know how to do things like doing a basic scaling of a deployment, maybe checking what pods are running, things like that. Container orchestration is so Kubernetes fundamentals is going to be the biggest thing on the KCNA. Do you understand how scheduling works? You don't have to go super in depth into any of these things, but you should have a high level knowledge. And then also cloud native application delivery, things like Argo CD, things like GitOps, having a basic understanding. Again, you don't need to be an expert in Argo CD. You don't need to be an expert in Helm, but you should be familiar with these technologies and have a basic understanding of what they do and what their use is. Application delivery and debugging. How do you debug containers, pods, things like that? And finally, cloud native architecture. Do you understand basic observability? You might be asked things like questions about OpenTelemetry or Prometheus, some of these other cloud native projects. So good thing to be kind of well versed in those, have a high level knowledge and overview. And then also the cloud native ecosystem and principles, cloud native computing, community and collaboration. So there are some things, especially on the KCNA, that they will ask you that are not strictly related to Kubernetes. They're going to be related to more about the cloud native compute foundation. So you really want to make sure that you go through their website and understand kind of the governance structure, some of the events and things that they do, and how they steward Kubernetes. As a resource, I would recommend Code Cloud. So I took Code Cloud's the let me see if I can find it. I did take this course, the Certified Kubernetes Administrator course. This is the only one that I took from Code Cloud, but it prepared me for all of the rest of these exams. And I would say if you are really starting with the basics, I would start with the Kubernetes for Beginners and then also the Cloud Native Associate course as well. So they have a really nice roadmap here. They suggest the KCNA and then the CKA and then the CKAD, KCSA, and CKS. So I think this makes a lot of sense because the KCNA is going to be a really good introduction. It's going to introduce you to make sure that you're comfortable with all of these cloud native technologies and all of these concepts. And once you've done that, then you're ready to dive in and learn some of the more advanced topics about managing a cluster, how Kubernetes works kind of under the hood, things like scheduling and emission controllers and things like that. RBAC and service accounts, all that's going to come in the CKA. And so that's a really good, I think, course. I would highly recommend going that route and then taking your CKAD like pretty soon after you take the CKA. I've talked to some people who are like, man, I wish I would have done that. That is the path that I took, and I feel like it worked out really well because once I took the CKA, I was very well prepared for the CKAD. It felt like it was a lot easier. And then finally, the one that I didn't talk about yet, which is the KCSA, or the Security Associate. Now, if you've passed the CKA, the KCNA, the CKA, and the CKAD, you're going to be in a really good position for this one. So let's go ahead and pull it up here, and let's see if we can find it. So the Cloud Native Security Associate, and this is going to be very similar to the KCNA, but obviously it has a more security, it's more of security focused. So having an overview of cloud native security, understanding the 4Cs, understanding the shared responsibility model between cloud providers and their customers. That's going to touch on the cloud provider and infrastructure security, controls and frameworks, artifact repositories. So all of these are going to be good. Workload security, application code security, um, and then obviously understanding all of the different pieces of a Kubernetes cluster as they relate to security, the etcd server being kind of your, the etcd server is kind of the golden goose, right? Anything that can get access to that has access to everything. So understanding how all of those things play together, and Kubernetes security fundamentals, pod security standards, pod security admissions, authentication, authorization, again, going into the RBAC, service accounts, namespaces, and how you can create these different separations. Also, audit logging and network policy. So I thought this one was really good. And again, I didn't prepare for it other than having taken the other exams, understanding denial of service, attacker on the network, privilege escalation, things like this, platform security, and also compliance and security frameworks, threat modeling, supply chain. Again, would highly recommend Code Cloud for that. And once you've taken the KCSA, my experience with both of these exams, like I said, I don't remember exactly what I got on them. I did fairly well. I think for me, each exam I finished them in, I think, like 15 minutes. Multiple choice, but totally a great experience. I was happy that I took them just to kind of validate and make sure, really kind of validate the knowledge that I have, and really set me up for success moving forward. So I would say this is a really smart path if you are not as familiar with, if you're not as experienced with Kubernetes, if you're not as experienced with cloud native technologies. Go in this order. This makes a lot of sense. The KCNA, the CKA, the CKD, KCSA, and CKS. The CKS being the last one that you take. So I hope that was helpful. And they also have this really cool calculator. How much time do you want to spend on this? So I would definitely check out codecloud.com. And thank you for following along with this journey. I got my acceptance email on Monday of this week, and so I am just waiting to be added to the website and get my official badge, which should be coming in the next couple days. And I'm going to be making a series of follow-up videos as well, kind of walking through some hands-on exercises with the CKA and the CKS specifically. So stay tuned for that. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I look forward to talking to you soon.